Color guard, attention! Shoulder, palms. Forward, punch. Present, arm.
Michael Houston.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Gee, you must have been behaving yourself last night. Something must be wrong. Is this a convention? Yes. Hey, it is truly an honor to welcome you this morning. And let me begin by thanking the veterans that are here for your service to our country. To all the veterans and to their families, I want to say thank you. You know, Springfield really can't thank you enough for what you have done. And let's not forget the sacrifice of those who have served our country, as well as the sacrifice of the family that is left behind. You know, this week we had a situation where we had an Illinois soldier who was killed in action by friendly fire. As the parent of a daughter who is engaged to someone who has served 3 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan with the Special Forces, my heart goes out to that family, because it will be that family that will suffer the most. I am not a veteran. My father served for 4 years with the United States Navy during World War II. I never realized the sacrifices that both my mother and my father made during those years until I read Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation. That book gave me a whole new understanding of what my parents went through. It also gave me a whole new appreciation of what my mother went through while my father was at sea. Those who served in World War II are truly our greatest generation. And while we will never be able to repay you for what you did for this country, if we have any World War II veterans in the audience today, would you please stand and be recognized? You have set a standard for those that have followed you. You are truly heroes who I respect and admire. You know, as we think about our greatest generation, I picked up the local newspaper this morning, and I saw an obituary of a gentleman by the name of Harold Pankey. Mr. Pankey was 91 years old. He was a veteran of 5 campaigns in Europe, and he was a corporal in the United States Army. He was at the Battle of the Bulge, and he landed at Omaha Beach on D-Day. Among his decorations were 2 Purple Hearts and 2 Bronze Stars. When we think about the people who served during World War II, there is no way that we can begin to repay them, because they truly have set a standard for all of us to follow. You know, today we have many veterans returning from war. Some carry wounds that are very visible. Many are carrying wounds that we cannot see. One of the things that we really need to focus on is not repeating the mistakes of the past. Your organization needs to take a lead to ensure that our returning veterans receive all the services that they need. Beyond providing the services they need, programs need to be developed so that our returning veterans can find meaningful employment. There's no question that we're still in a very, very tough economy. The VFW and other veterans groups are in the best position to lobby Congress and our state legislature to ensure that today's returning veterans receive what they deserve. I hope that you will have a very productive meeting and take the opportunity to get out of the hotel and see some of the things that the city of Springfield has to offer. You know, there is something about Abraham Lincoln that attracts people from all over the world. And while you may not realize it, next to Jesus Christ, Mr. Lincoln is the most studied man and has more pages written about him than anyone else other than Jesus Christ in the history of the world. And while you're here, you have the opportunity to walk the same streets that Mr. Lincoln walked and to learn how he lived. Within 2 blocks of this hotel to the south, you have the only home that Mr. Lincoln ever owned. It sits in the middle of a 4-square-block national park, which is the only national park in the state of Illinois. If you walk 1 block to the west, you have Mr. Lincoln's law office, where he practiced law from 1842 to 1852. That building is a very small building, but it has an audiovisual theater, an exhibit gallery, an old post office, and a federal court bench of Mr. Lincoln's time. If you just walk across the mall, you're at the restored Old State Capitol, which I consider to be the most beautiful building in the state of Illinois at night under candlelight. When you walk by that building, take a look at it. It has a height of 361 feet. It is the tallest non-skyscraper capitol in the country, and it exceeds the height of the U.S. Capitol, which is 289 feet. In 1858, in the House of Representatives on the 2nd floor, that was the site of the famous House Divided Speech. In 1865, when you walk into the House of Representatives, think about the fact that more than 75,000 people passed by Mr. Lincoln's body as it lied in state. 75,000 people. The city of Springfield in 1865 had a population of approximately 6,000 people. After Mr. Lincoln's assassination, he was brought by train from Washington, D.C., and they stopped in 10 cities. Think about how it would be to travel in 1865. And 75,000 people came to walk by his casket. I think that gives you some idea of the honor and the respect that the people at that time had for Mr. Lincoln. Within 3 blocks of this hotel, you have the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Museum, which is literally the crown jewel of presidential museums in this country. I'm a political junkie. One of the things I have on my bucket list is to visit every presidential library in the country. I can tell you that this is, in fact, the best one in the country. You know, when you go to presidential libraries, if you go to Ronald Reagan's presidential library in California, it's very typical of other libraries. They have a replica of the Oval Office. One of the things he has that no one else has is a Air Force One that sits there. If you go to Little Rock and you go to Bill Clinton's presidential library, you'll see papers, you'll see medals, you'll see all kinds of things, and it has a presidential limousine. The difference is that when you come to Mr. Lincoln's presidential library, is you actually have a feeling of who the man was, what his principles were, and what his values were. It is a great educational experience. Within 2 miles of this hotel, we have Oak Ridge Cemetery, which is the final resting place of Mr. Lincoln. Lincoln's tomb is an experience in and of itself. But one of the things that is also contained within Oak Ridge Cemetery is a veterans section. And I would strongly encourage you, if you have not done so, to go to that section of the cemetery that contains the World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam memorials. And right now, there are plans underway to do a Purple Heart section to be added to that. While you will not have time to do it while you're here during this visit, if you've not been to New Salem Village recently, it's 20 miles west of Springfield. And literally, you will step back into the 1830s of an authentic working community of Mr. Lincoln's time. I hope you will take the opportunity to learn about the principles and values of Mr. Lincoln, because it was those principles and values that led him to become the greatest president in the history of our country. And if more people today lived by Mr. Lincoln's principles and values, this country would be a much better place. Thank you for choosing Mr. Lincoln's hometown and for allowing me the privilege, and I say privilege, of welcoming you for what you have done for our country. I know that your work will never stop until each and every veteran and their families are properly cared for and honored. May God bless you and all those who have given their lives in the service of our great country, as well as all those who have served our country. And may God bless and protect those who are serving our country today. Whatever you do while you're here, spend a lot of money and help our local economy. Have a great meeting.
We've got a presentation for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate those facts also. I like hearing things that make Illinois stand out. The fact that our capital is taller than the United States Capitol says a lot. Right now, though, we do have a special presentation for you, sir. Jamie Crown, the Ladies Auxiliary Department Patriotic Instructor.
On behalf of the Ladies Auxiliary to the Veterans of Foreign Wars, I present you this flag and thank you for your service.
Thank you very, very much. Have a great meeting. Oh.